Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Steve here from over at PVE, hashtag tuning shed. We've just recently had, a couple of days ago, the MaxxECU Race Gen 2 drop. This has been ongoing in the background for a little while. MaxxECU have been developing this. They've had a few of us testing it in the background for the last few months. And like I say, a couple of days ago, it finally dropped. So I just thought I'd do a quick video just explaining what it's all about, what the differences are between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. As you're probably aware, if you follow the channel, I'm a real advocator of the MaxxECU. I love the ECU. I love their business ethics. I love the company. I'm really pro MaxxECU. We've dealt with all sorts of ECU manufacturers over the years. Some from the UK, some from other places. The thing I like about the MaxxECU is that it's so flexible. It's open. They encourage you to be using all of the features and make it interface nicely with whatever you're putting it into. Most other brands, they don't seem to have that. They seem to want you to go into their whole ecosystem. You can run our ECU, but if you want to use CAN bus in some manner to drive the original cluster in the car, then that's not a positive thing. But we can sell you a nice instrument cluster that can go in there. By the way, you can't use CAN to communicate with the BCM to run the fuel pump. So, there's a lot of companies that do that. And that's their business ethics, and that's their business plan. That's what they do, and that's great. But a lot of the times, we're fitting an ECU and we want to integrate it into as many of the systems as we can. So the MaxxECU is probably one of the only ones that is fully allowing us to do that, being brutally honest, and certainly at a price point that is worth going down the road of. There are lots of other ECUs, again, that are 2, 3, 4 times the price, sometimes, as some of these that we're using, that may well do it. They may well not, but for what we're doing, the MaxxECU, for its price point, is without a doubt, it's way up there. As far as I'm concerned, it's the peak, especially now we've got this Gen 2. So let's have a quick chat about this. So this is the MaxxECU Race, now the Gen 1. This has been our best seller for years now. We sell lots of these. They are a very capable ECU. And there's not a lot that they can't do, to be brutally honest with you. Certainly at the price point, this is good for, up to 8 cylinders sequential. The Gen 1's got a single onboard lambda driver. It can run the Bosch LSU 4.2 or the LSU 4.9. You can connect them straight to the connectors, connect the lambda sets straight to the connector, if you get what I'm saying. You don't need an external driver. You don't need any external CAN bus module box or any 0 to 5 volt or any of that nonsense. You can connect those to this if you want to run extra lambdas. That's absolutely fine. But it has class-leading circuitry to run a single lambda sensor. It's got a built-in 400 kPa map sensor here. This is on like a 4mm. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. 4mm push fit fitting on the Gen 1. What else has it got? It's a single user configurable CAN bus interface on board. Again, as I was saying a minute ago, you can run external modules, a PDM, instrument cluster, or any of the OEM vehicles' original features. MaxxECU are really good at providing some OEM CAN bus protocols anyway. So you can run them with that. It's got 8 EGTs built in, and you can log up to 1000 hertz to the internal memory, which is 8 meg in the MaxxECU Race terms. So, a great bit of kit. It really is. Like I say, it's still current. They're not going to get rid of this anytime in a minute. One of the things that people do say is that the connectors, these are what they call Molex CMC. It's a high density connector, so there's lots of pins quite close together, but they can be a bit of a bugger. If you've got the correct tooling, this is the tooling we use for these. These are like Molex specific crimps, but these are, I think these are like £600 or £700 each or something, and there's 2 different sizes, hence 2 different crimp sets. So often people will buy like a terminal kit, like we sell like a connector with terminals, and it's really common for people to bugger it up. And then they wreck the whole connector, so they end up having to start again. So we usually will have the chat with the customer when they actually order those connectors. But you know, make no mistake, they're not horrendous. They're just easy to bugger up. So it's been a you know, it's something that's mentioned you know, occasionally on the pages. So the new ECU has got you know, different connectors. It's got like the Super Seal 1.0s, which is a significant step up. But I'll move on to that in a minute. What else to say? Yeah, it's like I say, it's all aluminium, powder coated. They've always feel quality, always have done. So the Gen 2. Let's move up to this bad boy. Now this has been an ongoing project for MaxxECU. I don't know for how long, but certainly they've let the dealers know about it for a few months now. We've had one on test, which I've been using in my V8 Jag, which has got the 8 HP MaxxECU binary 5 on it, and it has been glorious, and I love it dearly. It's a great piece of kit. So comparing the bits that I've just spoken about, we'll run through that first. The Gen 2's got 2 onboard Lambda controllers, and it also now supports the new LSU 5.2. You can still use the LSU 4.2 or the 4.9 if you want. Again, you can connect directly to the connectors, and it's a software change to change between them. The ECUs are shipped with the LSU 5.2 Lambda sensors if you order it as a kit. The 5.2, I'll just touch on that very briefly, is better for a number of reasons. So-called improved accuracy, faster response. It's a simpler design. It's got no integrated calibration resistor in the Lambda sensor connector itself, so it should be, you know, more accurate straight out of the box, essentially. The ECU has got like an onboard 550 kPa map sensor. This is a threaded Boss here. You can see, I believe that's M10x1. It ships with 2 little connectors that go in there. Hang on, let's pull them out of the box and I can actually show you rather than just talking about it, which is which is a positive move, isn't it? So yeah, you get like an AN fitting essentially, which will go in there. Oh, wobble, knock that. Or you get like a barb. Both of those have got little integrated O-rings under there, and you can screw them on. Rock and roll, ready to go. So this has 2 onboard CAN bus interfaces. Again, configurable to do whatever you want them to do. It has 8 EGT sensors on board, or you know, EGT reading capabilities. You can just connect them straight into the connectors again. They do have a faster response time, incidentally, on the Gen 2, the EGTs from the Gen 1. Internal logging, this is what's been talked about on the pages quite a bit that I see. And that is that this can log at 1000 Hertz, and it can do over 1600 channels, all the channels in the ECU at 1000 Hertz, and it logs them internally to a 16 gigabyte memory. So, you know, the 8 meg, we always thought we were looked after with this, you know, that felt loads, but 16 gigabytes just feels wild. So yeah, all internal, literally ready to rock. And you can see this one has, you know, the Gen 2 has 4, ooh, let's not destroy it quite yet. This has 4 of the Super Seal 1.0 connectors. You know, these are widely used connectors. You know, other ECU manufacturers are using them. They use them on the PDM20 already, and they use a bit better tooling. I haven't got my die set in this, but there are various tooling that you can use to do this. It's far, you know, easier to get hold of the tooling. It's like a better price point of tooling also, and they're far more difficult to bugger these connectors up. I'll show you the connector, you know, shortly. So yeah, again, the case is all aluminium, powder coated black. It feels good quality. It looks good. You know, clearly the connectors are on the different side, a different edge. You know, like I say, these are on the face, these are on the edge, quite clearly. So the Gen 1 has a USB connector here. You know, the USB, I think it's a USB-B. The H2O Race Gen 1 has a screw-on connector with a USB underneath it, essentially, which I believe is a mini, perhaps a USB mini, but regardless. The Gen 2 has like a PC. Oh, this is at 12 megabits speed-wise. The Gen 2, under these little rubber caps, has a USB Type-C, and that can communicate with the PC, clearly as it says PC, and that's at 480 megabits from memory. It's got a secondary USB-C under that port. These are just to keep its water integrity there, so that it's waterproof. That can be used for, I believe it's got comms at 12 megabits, and it can be used for charging M-Dash and, you know, another great free product that comes with these. This has got Wi-Fi built in and Bluetooth. The original Race has Bluetooth, but no Wi-Fi off this SMA or SMC, whatever they're called there. So this is the little antenna for those. So in 2026, currently this is the Bluetooth is enabled, but the Wi-Fi is not. So in 2026, MaxxECU will be allowing us to use the Wi-Fi. So cool, we'll be able to actually tune this without any cables whatsoever, just via Wi-Fi. So that's exciting. Right, let's talk about I/O. This is where things get fun. This is where it's exciting. So the Gen 1 had 2 dedicated inputs for our triggers, so dedicated pins on the connectors for our trigger sensors. So a dedicated input for a crank, it could be VR or a Hall sensor, and a dedicated input for a cam, again VR or Hall sensor. It wanted a limitation. For instance, you could utilize some of the digital inputs for another camshaft position. For instance, if you had a V8 with 4 lots of VVTs or Vanos, then you could use some of the digital inputs on this for those cam sensors, because the 4 digital inputs included in the Race Gen 1 will run with VR. So, but dedicated crank cam. So the Gen 2 has 8 pulsed inputs. Any of these inputs can be used for the crank, cam, speed, wheel speed, whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you want essentially with those 8 pulsed inputs. Pulse 1 and 2 are pre-wired and have pins specifically for a voltage output. So you can configure these pins as 5 volts, 12 volts, you know, or a VR, whatever you want to do. On the wiring harness that's supplied with the premium package, there's actually got some screened 3-core cable going down. So, you know, Pulse 1 and 2, ideally, you can use for, you know, your crank and cam Hall sensors. But I find it really exciting that you can just do whatever you want with those pulsed inputs. So the Gen 1 had dedicated inputs for coolant temperature, air temperature, and TPS inputs. So it also had 2 extra analog inputs, AN1 and 2, which had internal pull-ups, you know, permanently on the circuitry. So those 2 inputs, the analog inputs there, were ideally primarily used for temperature, so oil temperature, fuel temperature, whatever. You could use them for digital inputs, but primarily we were using them for temperature inputs. So this ECU does also have an extra 6 analog 0 to 5 inputs. So with this, you could run, you know, up to 6 extra 0 to 5 signals, for instance, you know, for your fly-by-wire, your throttle pedal, you know, oil pressure, whatever you want to do. It also has 4 digital VR, digital or VR inputs. You know, again, I touched on that just a little while ago. So that's the inputs for the Gen 1. The Gen 2 has 24 configurable inputs. Now, these can be 0 to 5 volts, they can be temperature sensors, they can be digital. In the software, you can use pull-ups on any of those inputs. So if you wanted to run a 2.5K pull-up on for a temperature sensor, you can. If you wanted to use it for a digital sensor, you can. So you can do whatever you want to do with those 24 inputs. You can have your coolant temperature sensor on input 7, 9, 21, whatever you want to do. It's allowed us to be, you know, completely open with, you know, like cable management. When we're building a harness, it's a consideration. If we've only got, you know, 5 sets on this and 3 on there, it can be a pain. But if you can utilize just everything on 2 connectors if you need to, so from a wiring point of view, it's great. But from a flexibility point of view, fantastic. We can just have 24 inputs. You might want to run 20 digital inputs for all I know, but that's the joy of it. You can just utilize those inputs for whatever you want. So let's move on to outputs. The Gen 1 has got 8 injector outputs. These can be configured in the software to be peak and hold injectors, or some high impedance saturated injectors, again, whatever you want to do. Again, they can be configured to do anything as well as injectors, so boost control. Say you've got a 4-cylinder engine, you can use the other 4 injectors for boost control, or again, any other outputs, fan control, relays, whatever. The Gen 2, 16 injector drivers. Again, can be completely configured in the same manner as the Gen 1, so you can drive whatever you want to use for those. High impedance, peak and hold injectors, and you can use them for whatever other outputs you should so desire. So the GP outputs, the Gen 1, we've got 9 low side, and it has 2 amp high side GPOs, again, to configure whatever you want to do. You can even configure those GPOs for extra injectors if you need to, something I've done in the past. The Gen 2 has 8 low side driving GPOs, and it also has 4 5 amp high side GPOs. Again, these can be useful for all sorts of stuff. Some of the Honda VTEC solenoids need a high side, for instance, but again, it's useful I/O to have. The ignition drivers get fun too. The Gen 1 has 8 dedicated ignition drivers. MaxxECU range do run TTL on all the ECUs for reference, but selectable between 5 and 12. You know, I've never needed to use anything other than 5, honestly, but these are designed primarily for smart coils or coils with ignition drivers, of course. If you've got some of these spare in the Gen 1, say you've got a 4-cylinder engine, you've got 4 of these ignition outputs free, you can use these to drive other stuff. I've used them to drive solenoids on power steering racks in BMWs in the past. But, you know, again, you can configure them to do whatever you want, but essentially 8 dedicated. The Gen 2, 12 ignition outputs, again, only for use with TTL coils, and again, selectable between 5 and 12 volts. But what the Gen 2 allows us to do is, if we've got spare ignition outputs, we can select in the software to use those as to ground outputs and use those as GPOs also. So we can use those just to drive like low sides on relays, again, and configure them to do whatever you want to do. Just select it in MTune software. So that's really exciting, and it leaves us, you know, lots of extra I/O. I think a lot of this is going to be, you know, we'll be dreaming up ways of using this. I can tell already. Lots of people do already use these ECUs almost like a little BCM and use them to control LED indicators and all sorts of other bits and pieces. So it's going to be like almost like a processing network hub as far as I can see. The Gen 2 also features an accelerometer internally, much like the Pro does. Again, a great little feature. Just remember to the amount of times I've been sent logs with accelerometer data and they haven't used the tools to mount to tell the software in what position the ECU is mounted. So there's a nice little tool in there which allows you to do it, and it's a visual tool. So yeah, make sure you set that up. All of the features are unlocked in the MaxxECU range. For instance, you can run an 8HP from the Mini. You know, all of their features are all unlocked. You can run staged nitrous, whatever is available in any of the MTune software you can run. So naturally, all of these features are passed over into the Gen 2 race. It's fully fledged and able to use any of these CAN features. You know, the 8HP or any of the already developed MaxxECU OEM protocols are already in there. It uses the MTune software, which we're all nice and familiar with. You know, MaxxECU have got a great reputation for pushing out software updates. These are, you know, continually getting added in new crank cam profiles, OEM CAN bus protocols. You know, we've been testing one of these, like I say, on my Jag with Binary 5, which is their latest, you know, previous to this, the latest sort of release from MaxxECU, the 8HP control. So, you know, I'm absolutely confident in this product from a longevity point of view, and I'm really excited to see what people can come up with. I've got some ideas of what we're going to be using these for already. I mean, for us, we do a lot of, you know, V8 Jag stuff. And we've been redesigning a lot of our plugins for this ECU in the background over the last few months because it suits what we're doing perfectly. It's got enough I/O to deal with all of the features in a lot of the Jaguars that we're making plug-in ECUs for. It's also got like the twin lambda, so there's no extra bits and pieces we need. So look out for that soon from us. You know, sometime in 26 Q1, Q2, we'll be releasing some, you know, exciting stuff from a Jaguar point of view. So what's included in my box? So this is the ECU and connector kit. Comes with like a new style wiring diagram and, you know, general information booklet, which is a nice touch, nice improvement. Naturally ECU, and we get the cable, which has got the little waterproof. Hopefully you can see that there. I don't want to take it out of the box because this will be going off to somebody else out of packet. But this is like a specific cable that keeps the waterproof integrity whilst you're tuning. Naturally comes with all the connectors. Again, nice and easy to crimp. We've got an extra cable here, an extra USB cable, which will go into the other connector. And as I spoke about earlier on, the 2 map fittings. This is the premium kit. This is the LSU 5.2 premium kit, and it is bulging. All of the harnesses pre-made, ready to go. And as I said, the Pulse 1s and 2 have the 3-core cable. The other Pulse inputs have 2-core. It just makes life so much easier when you're building a harness. And again, there's our nice connectors. This one's got the 2 lambda sensors, so the pair of LSU 5.2s, and then essentially connectors for the lambda sensors. Nice little sticker kit, a couple of USB cables, and the EGT connectors, the K-type EGT connectors. So that's what you will expect to get in your box. Again, great bit of kit. We're really excited to start selling these. We've sold a couple already, and it's literally only been, you know, live on the website for a few hours. So yeah, happy days. There we have it. So that is the new MaxxECU Race Gen 2. We're really pleased, excited to be able to sort of, you know, start selling these. We've sold a few already. I'm going to put another order in tomorrow. When you consider it's literally only been public knowledge for 2 days, I think that's just amazing. But keep your eye on our shop. We've got lots of other little bits and pieces going on. We've got these little holders. These will go around our super seal connectors, so it'll make a nice installation. And they're only pennies really. They're proper injection molded, you know, little zip tie holders there, so you can tie your loom up. Lots of other bits and pieces. We've got our where are those? Oh, hang on. That's real professional, isn't it? We've got our ECU holders. This one's still got the plastic on because I was completely unprepared. We're giving those away free with everyone that's orders the Race Gen 2 currently. They're for sale separately. If you need us to send them out, then by all means just go to the web shop and we'll have all of these bits and pieces on there. So yeah, thanks for joining us. I hope this has been of interest. If it hasn't, I can only apologise, but I look forward to seeing all of your projects in the groups. And you know, if you've got any questions for us or any of the MaxxECU dealers, all the UK dealers, and my experience have been really helpful. So, you know, get in contact with any of us and we'll be happy to help. Until then, thanks ever so much for joining us. See you all soon.